Are you considering divorce? Are you dealing with it now? Are you on the other side and not sure what comes next? You've come to the right place. Welcome to the Divorce Do's and Don'ts Show with your host, Lisa C. Decker.
Welcome back, folks. We're happy to have you here today. Welcome to the Divorce Do's and Don'ts Show. I'm Lisa Decker, your host, as well as a certified divorce financial analyst, a real estate collaboration specialist in divorce. And as of last week, I have a new acronym, Certified Amicable Divorce Professional, from a training that I took through the Amicable Divorce Network. Very happy to be adding that to the list of skills that I bring to clients. And I am also the CEO and founder of Divorce Money Matters and Divorcetown USA, the sponsor of this show. So as you have heard me say before, it is vital that we be proactive partners, not passive participants in our divorce. All of our health and wealth matters. All too often, we see people get overwhelmed or lost, or they just trying to kind of coast through the process, allowing others to set the tone, the pace, and sometimes even make decisions for them. We're going to help you not to do that. There's no doubt that divorce is difficult, even in the most amicable of circumstances, but it doesn't have to be traumatic. Today, we want to help you consciously accept, acknowledge, participate, and heal from this phase of your life so that you can thrive into the future. Helping us today is our guest, Daniel Allen. Daniel is a writer, speaker, spiritual and emotional counselor on the subject of relationships, including the one with yourself, and an advocate for love and raising consciousness. Daniel is the founder and a lead facilitator of Soul Expansion, an innovative spiritual emotional practice that bypasses common bottlenecks faster than traditional therapy. And aside from his private practice, Daniel facilitates several workshops for singles, couples, families, and companies to better understand, give, receive, and celebrate all relationships within their lives. Welcome to the show, Daniel. So wonderful to have you here. We're not hearing you, Daniel. Can you do a mic check? This is live TV, folks, so bear with us. We are seeing you on screen twice. Maybe that's the problem here. I see. Did I hear you now?
Better?
Yes, thank you. Okay. All right. Okay, great. So, Daniel, we're very excited to have you here today talking about this very interesting concept of soul expansion and conscious separation and the programs that you have. And we have lost you on screen, Daniel. Can you join us again?
Yeah, I apologize. Yeah, it's very interesting. Hang in there for one moment. Let's see what happens here. And if not, I'll pop right back in. Did that come in?
There you are.
Yay.
Yes. Okay.
It all seems to be working. I want to appreciate everybody for your patience. I'm fairly technically savvy, and my computer was just going a little slow. But anyway, hi, everybody. And hi, Lisa. And thank you for having me.
I'm happy to have you here today. And I love your background there. Very calm and soothing. So tell us more about Soul Expansion and the conscious separation program that you have, and how does this differ from other modalities and therapies?
I think primarily, well, let's talk about what soul expansion is, because that's kind of all encompassing, and how that really differs from other modalities comes down to a few different things. I think one is, it's kind of playful. And there's no way to evade the cracking of one's shell. There's no way to evade maybe some of the pain of our own journeys, especially as we're expanding into being more of ourselves. However, it's done with a sense of just compassion and companioning. I think that we end up in a place in this world where things are very left-brained, and almost contradictory, where we really invite people to feel their feelings, but we really don't want them to get in the way of our own relationship with them or the things they've got to do. And I find a great contradiction there. But really what it comes down to is you hear a lot of buzzwords in our industry, and one of them is authenticity. But I think an even more important word is integrity. When you understand and have a real good sense of self-awareness, self-actualization, when you really understand what your purpose is in this world, it's much easier for you to live from that space, and everything else kind of just dissolves. So soul expansion was really something that I was gifted with. It came through me about 23 years ago.
Mm.
And what I had discovered as I continued to be with it and work with it and write it before I even had a practice, that these are just ways that we really get clear about who we are and the kind of life we want to be living, and that it enables us to do so. So the soul expansion program itself, which is generally about 12 sessions, which is focused on conscious loving and conscious living, because you cannot consciously live until you consciously love, and that includes yourself. There's no way. So I discovered that most people were entering relationships to be loved, but not to be loving. And it's a very different framework when you do that. And after a couple of years with my private practice and my authorship, people started asking, could we just work on these things? And that's kind of how the conscious separation program came about. And what I had discovered was everybody knows how to end a relationship. Very few people know how to conclude them. And if you don't conclude them in a way that is really honoring of everybody involved, then you're likely going to repeat them. And that's really what the conscious separation program independently is about. It's a sort of a laser focused way of saying all of the tools within soul expansion, of which there's about 15, and from my understanding from colleagues and partners, clients through the years, there's about 10 of those that are nowhere else to be found. But really what it came down to is, okay, you're going through the process of a separation or divorce. Let's get really clear what needs to happen so that you can move on from this relationship in the most whole fashion, along with everybody else involved, including spouse, children, extended family, even communities, friends. There's just this almost innate pull that people sometimes think they have to have when people are going through separation or divorce, to take a side. And it's incredibly destructive. So that's really how that came about. And the intention of it is that you learn the gift of that relationship very clearly, and there are probably many of them, so that you can do your work with that gift. So that if you ever find yourself in another relationship, you're not repeating the circumstances to have to work that gift all over again.
And that's so important, because statistically we know that about 50% of first marriages end up in divorce, and second marriages about 60, and the third marriages, if there is a third, are over 70% likely to end in divorce. So the fact of healing from the first relationship and learning what went wrong, what each of our parts were in that, and healing, each other, healing ourselves, healing our family. I love the whole community idea, because lots of people hurt when people get divorced. It's not just the two partners. So that's very insightful, Daniel. So what are some of the most meaningful aspects of your coaching, and how has it allowed clients to actualize about themselves and or their divorce?
I think one of the things that we have to get out of the framework of is that we failed. We didn't fail. It's a very much a human thing. And it's also very often linked to perfectionism. And I don't care who you are, if you are a perfectionist with yourself or with others, you're setting those relationships up for failure. And so we talk a lot about excellence. And really what we want to be clear about is to give ourselves some space to be compassionate with ourselves and others, and to understand that I just want to be in integrity. And I am not going to be in integrity 100% of the time. But the gift, a great gift through soul expansion or any of the other programs within it, is that you get a stronger sense of personal integrity. And most people don't even have a clear definition of what personal integrity means. often when I speak with people, they'll say, well, yeah, I mean, I have a good credit score. I pay my bills on time. That is not personal integrity. That just means that you manage your finances. So we need to get clear about what that definition means. And that was part of my work 5+ years ago when I started writing the modality of soul expansion as it came through me. And we have a definition for that if you want to know what it is. But really what it comes down to is that when you know who you are, you're not going to lean on other people to tell you who you are. And you'll hold your space for boundaries and priorities much more, which is a big part of this. Again, one of those buzzwords, boundaries. But if you think of a boundary, boundaries usually are to keep people out. So I like to speak to priorities. What are my priorities in the relationships I have? I really don't have to even enforce a boundary unless it's overstepped. I don't even need to discuss it. My priorities are what I want to focus on. And if the priorities when you're going through divorce is to be generative, to be respectful, to really take the gift of love that the two people have been given and expand and grow beyond that, then it becomes a very different focal point rather than sitting at a table and arguing, about this or that or whose is whose.
That's beautiful. And, I love that you talk about the gift, because I have always found in the challenging times of life that there are gifts within everything. No matter what you're going through, if you see it through the eyes of gratitude for what you've learned, for how strong you've become, for the children that you have, in the case of divorce, it changes the tone of everything. If you look
Absolutely.
for the gifts within, you will find them. So that's
right.
really important. And I
Yeah.
appreciate that point. And what are some of the greatest challenges that you see people going through divorce or separation as they're headed to a divorce? What are some of the greatest challenges that you find working with them?
Well, your humanity. I mean, for most of us that are going to probably be involved with this program, there's that adage that we're a spiritual being having a human experience. And those are two strands of a DNA that are consistently coexisting within our life. And that's not easy. How do you live from your spirit? How do you live from your soul? Especially when you are drawn into things in this very physical human world. And then how do I not get defensive? How do I hold that space? So the greatest challenge there is the humanity. How do I stay clear and focused on, as I like to say, my little I and my big I, and my sort of daily self and my divine self, right? Or my humanity and my spiritual self. How do I do that? Even in these really difficult times, because when it gets down to it, this is bigger than the people involved. You have relationships, as I shared, with family, with children. So how do I not commoditize my children? How do I not commoditize relationships? That's my friend. That's not your friend. How do we get to a place where we understand we came together in love, and either we have completed that journey or it's not working the way we thought it was? And how do we move on from that and really understand what my work was in this, so that I, in my own independent, walk through life, can be more, and you can do the same. And how do we continue to love these people? And that's a big thing. It's a huge thing, because if you keep your eyes again on being supportive and generative for the highest and best, from that vantage point at the top of the mountain that says, this is really how we want life to be for all these people that we love, including ourselves. It changes a lot, because when you're down here, and people are immersed in all of this hurt, then we're not getting anywhere. And the children generally are the ones that will suffer the most. And then second, external relationships. So there's times I'll bring in parents, brothers and sisters, because I'll be working with a couple that's really making progress, but then one of their parents isn't supportive. So then maybe the grandchildren go over there and then they're saying things, and it erodes everything again, because then those kids go home and then they're having conversations. So it's really getting clear about what is the vision for us through this divorce. How do we stay committed and recommitted to it if we happen to fall off that balance beam? And we won't accept anything less. And if you really love somebody, and granted, people, they make mistakes, there's betrayals, But if you really love somebody, that love should withstand, even if you do choose to not be in that capacity of an intimate relationship with them.
Truth. There's so much truth in all of that. And I'm listening to you speak. This could apply to the world right now.
It
This
does.
kind
That,
of thought
absolutely.
process, because there are
Absolutely.
so many people hurting and so much division. And if we change our perspective, the lens that we look through and see through other people's eyes, we find we're all human, and
That's compassion,
just,
isn't it?
right, we're just doing the best that we can every day. And maybe
Yeah.
we don't see eye to eye, we see things differently, but if we can learn from each other and not have to be right, just learn from each other and say, I respect you for your ideals, your opinions, and I may not agree, but I'm okay that you're okay, kind of thing.
Yeah.
And I feel like I'm heading toward a kumbaya moment here.
Yeah, that's okay.
But honestly, I've been having a lot of conversations like this with people of all different sorts, random conversations, and it's been opening my mind in so many ways and opening theirs as well. And finding at the end of these conversations that people are so happy to be able to talk about their belief systems
That's
and
right.
who they are, and be accepted for that, not be disrespected, not try to be changed their viewpoint,
That's right.
just loved, right? I've been randomly talking to strangers and getting hugs all over the country. It's been happening, and
Yep.
here we are having a conversation again. I love this.
Well,
So
I want to toss out a real important tenet of soul expansion. It's a single sentence, and people often confuse this. Love is unconditional. Relationships are not.
mhm,
So the relationship, if you break down that word, relating, it's a structure, a mason jar. I'm just relating to you. And if I love you, that's higher than this mason jar. Now, if I agree with you that we just can't seem to get on in the same mason jar, and still love you and honor you and respect you for who you are. But the moment I start wanting to change you, I don't love you as you are.
mhm.
What I love is what I believe you could be if you'll just do what I say, which is, when you get down to it, not really love. So if
Or,
you, yeah, go ahead.
you may be the person on the opposite side who is, finding yourself not being loved for who you are. You're not the person
Correct.
that's right. So it works
Correct.
both ways. Yes.
Which is why, the beginning of this conversation I shared, most people enter relationships, including friendships, mind you, to be loved, not to be loving. When you start approaching relationships in your life of all kinds, just to be loving, you will automatically start to shift your belief systems because you're coming with a very different intention. And that is vital, I believe, vital to one's personal development, ultimately.
Mm-hmm. Very good point. Very good point. So in your work, do you find that couples often stay together for less than optimal reasons? I know I've seen that, but what is your experience? Daniel, are you frozen? Another fun live moment, folks.
Oh,
There it is.
is it not working again? Hey,
You were just standing there.
how about
pondering
now?
what's going on?
Are my
You're
dance
great
moves
now.
translating? Okay. Yeah, I think most of us that are working in this field come up against, some pretty common things. Of course, if this was Family Feud, number one answer probably would be the kids.
Mhm.
And I'm actually a very, very vocal proponent of that's not a reason to stay with each other, because I think the contempt sets in easily. And then what the children learn, even on a subtle unconscious level, is one, to be complacent, if not contemptuous. And then also they're learning that if I'm in a relationship that I don't really enjoy, I should still stay in it. And the thing is, I talk about this like with my son as well. He's 10. And, and we have co-parenting going on. And I've let everybody know for years, we've got till he's about 12 and then we're done. And then he's really off. And his belief systems, for the most part, about this world and who he is and how relationships function are done. And if you think about us, you, me, we then spend the remainder of our life trying to clean up those belief systems, don't we? So, if you look at it with a reverence, a stewardship, which is how I approach parenting, that's why I have a conscious parenting workshop. My responsibility, especially for these years, is to lay foundations that are healthy, that are self-loving, self-aware, self-actualizing, because then the rest of the journey is his. And when you are in situations, regardless if the child is 1, 4, 10, doesn't matter, and you're at that point, all of those subtleties of the stresses, of the discord, everything is still there. And that's what they're receiving. And that is what they will emulate. Because one of my favorite analogies that I often use in soul expansion is most of us are of a generation where we remember the Munsters. Remember? Okay. Remember Marilyn, right? She was sort of parallel Marilyn Monroe. Remember the cousin Marilyn that lived with him? Don't ever forget, she's the ugly one. They're walking around the house going, she's ugly. Oh man, oh my gosh, I hope she can get a date. Right? So if you break down the word family, the root word is familiar. Doesn't mean it's healthy. It's just what I know. So if you really approach this with a sense of a true veneration, you're going to raise your children in a way where hopefully you let them know what it looks like to have healthy love. And that means if it doesn't work, it's okay to move on from that relationship as long as it's done with love, respectfulness, and a sense of ownership. So that's really the biggest issue. I mean, most of the other stuff, people stay together for finances, which, people have those needs, they have insecurities, they're going to try to fulfill those insecurities.
Well, I understand all of what you're saying. So I agree with, children being the number one reason that people stay together, and why that is not always in the best interest of everyone. Those innuendos, those underpinnings of emotions, I agree that children will pick up on that, and eventually it may hurt them. It teaches them lessons that we may not even see. So yes, there's a lot in what you said there. And in your programs, I've heard you previously refer to your clients as partners. Can you expand a little bit on that?
Sure. It's something that comes up often in the last 15 years of my private practice. And it's really a beautiful and very simple statement. Many years ago, when I was first starting just the writings for soul expansion, after about a year or two of doing so, I had a small circle of close friends, some mentors, some colleagues. And I said, as I start to write, would you be willing to kind of look chapter by chapter and give feedback? That way, I don't have to wait till the book comes out if there's something I'm grossly overlooking. And so they said yes. And I sent out the first chapter, and one of my closest friends, she called me up and she said, I need to sit with you. This is amazing. So I went and I sat with her for about an hour at Whole Foods, and we chatted. And when it was complete, she said, would you please keep me in the loop? I said, sure. So a month or so goes by, I send out the second chapter. She calls me again and says, this is even more powerful. I need to see you and talk with you about what you wrote. And we spent another hour. And then there was that moment in that hour that was almost surreal and slowed down, where I realized I'm having a session, and the sessions are feeding the writing, and the writing are feeding the sessions. And we were walking, and she made a reference to me about my clients, and I shuddered. Ooh, sounds so sterile and cold. She said, well, what are you going to call them? Patients? I said, no, that's even worse. She said, what? I said, they're partners. When you think about it, I am being commissioned for my gift set. And my gift set is different than most other counselors and therapists and coaches. My archetype is a dark knight. As I often say, I'm comfortable in the darkness, but I live in the light. And when you think about it, most people have aspects of themselves they think are unlovable, that darkness. My responsibility in this work is to companion, not to give advice solely, but to companion my partners into those areas of their lives and help them find their way back out, and do that a few times through the process so they no longer need me. Because what happens in therapy often is you go, you have a great conversation, you're given maybe something to do in between those sessions, and on the 50th minute, you're on your own. And that's a lot to ask of somebody, especially if they're really in an emotional place. That week or 2 weeks before their next session is a long time. And what I've seen is that people don't do the work, because if something happens that night after a session, they've got 2 weeks to have to live with it. So my thought was, what if I companion them? I walk with them and I'm always available to them at no extra charge. They can email, they can call during business hours, and I will be there for them at no extra charge. I'm asking them to do big work. I should be able to walk beside them. So that's a major difference, and that's why they're partners. I'm not telling you what to do. I'm being commissioned by you to walk and companion and do it with you.
That's lovely. Very lovely. Well, we are coming down to the wire here. Why don't you take just a moment and just give us a brief understanding of the different soul expansion programs that you have and how people can get a hold of you. I know you have the Scan Me up there, a cool item you've added to your screen, but this also will be recorded at some point as a podcast, and people won't see that. So give us that final words here as we come to the end of the show.
Well, too. Well, soulexpansion.com is probably the simplest way. And then you can contact me through the page there, as well as maybe even set up a discovery session. And, call as well. And if anybody wants to let me know that you're an audience member from Lisa's show, then we'll work out something where there's probably a little bit of a reduction there. Lisa and I have known each other for many years. With regards to the basic programs, there's Soul Expansion itself, which is generally 12 sessions. And I guess the term people will use is it's a deep dive. But really what it is, it's saying, I really want to live in a space where I'm in consistent integrity and I'm holding others to their integrity. And what you find is a lot of the drama and a lot of the stresses of your life dissolve the more that you do that. From that, the sort of focused programs that are all bits and pieces therein, conscious separation, of course. And conscious separation is a beautiful thing, because when I started it and got some notoriety, people misinterpreted it, thinking, oh yeah, I'm going through a separation. This is the program for me. My spouse is this, my ex is that. That's not what it's about. You're actually separating from yourself. You're separating from the current version of yourself that clearly has put up your own roadblock, so that you can move beyond it. Again, that cracking of the shell as we expand. That's really what you're separating from, is your current belief system, so you can be more. Just so we're clear about that. There's conscious dating, which is very fun. And really what I found is, after the conscious separation got some notoriety, how about we get the people that are stepping in so they understand how to really recreate healthy relationships. And Born Romantic, which is a fun one, is for couples that just, once you're together for a while, you think you know each other, and then it seems that some of that romance fades. So how do we bring that back in a conscious way? It's not, learning anything having to do with Tantra or anything like that. It's just like, how do I really understand my partner and not assume that I do? And of course, conscious parenting is a wonderful program. It's a way that we really understand who our children are, and that we are just stewards, and that they're here to live their own lives and not pick up the deficits of our own journey. That's primarily what the programs are.
Well, it sounds like you have a wonderful library of programs to help people wherever they are on their soul expansion journey. And Daniel, I want to thank you so much for joining us today. We are going to wrap up the show now, and Marcella, my assistant, is going to share some information here on some free gifts that we have for our listeners. So if you are headed to Divorce Town and divorce is inevitable in your life, you really need to understand that you have multiple options and ways to get through divorce. And I have created this roadmap especially for you. The Divorce Town USA roadmap, which you can see here, includes an ebook that explains the options, whether you're coming in through Put Kids First Parkway, Financials First Freeway, Amicable Avenue, you, we are definitely trying to keep you away from Bigger Bucks Boulevard and Duke It Out Drive. That's the traditional way of people getting divorced. And we don't want you to go there. There's much better options. And DTUSA also offers many free articles and videos, and our marketplace features some of our favorite products and services that we found to help you through the divorce process. Next up, we have Divorce Money Matters, where you can download your free divorce financial fitness kit that I created to get you better organized to take control of your money matters during your divorce. The kit includes an ebook, a working Excel spreadsheet of the documents you'll need to gather, and a list of 50 must-ask questions when you're ready to meet with a family law attorney. Also at Divorcetown USA, we sponsor a virtual divorce help and hope support group through meetup.com, which meets once or twice a month via Zoom. Meeting dates and times are always posted on dtusa.com, divorcetownusa.com in the events section. And next week, we're going to switch gears and cover one of our most polarizing topics in divorce, the marital home and what to do with it. Our guest, Jennifer Brown, certified divorce lending professional and certified amicable divorce professional, will help us explore better, more creative options to divorce the house. So we will see you then. And you don't want to miss that one, because the house is really a problematic area in divorce. And so we hope you found this week of the Divorce Do's and Don'ts show helpful, and we look forward to seeing you all next week and every week as we continue improving the way the world divorces one family at a time.